So the assignment is about to finding similarity and differences of standard requirement within each of three different management standards.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi, my name is Mama Afiy bin Osman and I will be explaining on terms and definition for ISO 9001, ISO 14001 and ISO 45001. Terms and definitions for ISO 9001. ISO 9001 sets out the criteria for a quality management system or QMS and is the only standard in the family that can be certified to, although that is not a requirement. It can be used by any organization, larger or small, regardless of its field of activity. In fact, there are over 1 million companies and organizations in over 170 countries certified to ISO 9001. Next is terms and definitions for ISO 14001. ISO 14001 sets out the criteria for an environmental management system or EMS and can be certified too. It maps out a framework that a company and organization can follow to set up an effective environmental management system. Designed for any type of an organization, regardless of its activity or sector, it can provide assurance to company management and employee as well as external stakeholders that environmental impact is being measured and improved. Lastly, the terms and definitions for ISO 45001. ISO 45001 is an international standard that specifies requirements for an occupational health and safety or OSH management system, with guidance for its use to enable an organization to proactively improve its OSH performance in preventing injury and ill health. ISO 45001 is intended to be applicable to any organization regardless of its size, type, and nature. All of its requirements are intended to be integrated into an organization's own management processes. ISO 45001 enables an organization through its OSH management system to integrate other aspects of health and safety, such as worker wellness or well-being. However, it should be noted that an organization can be required by applicable legal requirements to also address such issues.
Clause 4. Context of organization. 4.1. Understanding the organization and its context. ISO 14001. The organization shall determine an external and internal issue that are relevant to its purpose and affect its ability to achieve the intended outcomes of the environmental management system. Such issues shall determine environmental conditions being affected or capable of affecting the organization. Next is ISO 90001. The organization shall determine external and internal issues that are relevant to its strategic direction and that are affect ability to achieve the intended result of its quality management system. Lastly, ISO 45001. The organization shall determine external and internal issues that are relevant to its purpose and that affect its ability to achieve the intended outcome of a occupational health and safe management system. 4.2 Understanding the needs and expectations of interested parties for ISO 14001 and ISO 9001. First, for ISO 14001, the subclause requires the organization to determine the interested party are relevant to EMS. The relevance needs and expectations are met by the interested party, and needs and expectation that is mentioned become its compliance obligation. For ISO 9001, the organization shall determine the interested party are relevant to the quality management system and the require of this interested party are relevant to the quality management system. For ISO 45001, understanding the needs and expectation of worker and other interested party. The organization shall determine external and internal issues that are relevant to its purpose and that affect its ability to achieve the intended outcome of its management. 4.3 ISO 14001 determine the scope of environmental management system. External and internal issue referred to the 4.1, compliance and obligation referred to the in 4.2, its organization, unit function and physical boundary, its activities, product and service, its authority and ability to exercise control and influence. Next is ISO 9001. Determine the scope of quality management system. The external and internal issue referred to in 4.1, the requirement of relevant interested party referred to in 4.2, the product and service of the organization. And lastly, for ISO 45001, determining the scope of the occupational healthy and safety management system. Consider the external and internal issue referred to in 4.1. Take account take into account the requirement referred in 4.2. Take into account the plan or perform work related activity. And lastly is clause 4.4 for ISO 14001 environmental management system to achieve its intended outcome by enhancing its environmental performance. The organization shall establish, implement, maintain, and continually improve on environmental management system, including the processes needed and their interaction. In accordance with the requirement of the international standard, the organization shall consider the knowledge gained in 4.1 and 4.2 when establishing and maintaining the environmental management system. For ISO 9001, quality management and system and its process. The organization shall establish, implement, maintain, and continually improve a quality management system, including the process needed and their interaction, in accordance with the requirement of this international standard. The organization shall maintain document information to support the operation of its processes and written document information to have confidence that the process are being carried out as planned. And lastly, ISO 45001, Occupational Healthy and Safety Management System. The organization shall establish, implement, maintain, and continually improve on occupational healthy and safety management system, including the processes needed and their interaction in according with the requirement of this document.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. I am Muhammad Izarul. I will explain class 5, which is leadership. 5.1 Leadership and commitment. So there is similarity for these three clauses, which is ISO 14001, ISO 90001, and ISO 45001. The top management shall demonstrate leadership and commitment with respect to the environmental quality, occupational healthy and safe management system by first taking accountability for the effectiveness of the management system. Second, ensure the policy and objective are established and compatible with the strategic direction and the context of the organization. Third is ensure the integration of the management system requirements into the organization's business process. Fourth, ensure that the resource needed for the management system is available. For ISO 19001, there is sub clause which is 5.1.2 customer focus. The focus on enhancing customer satisfaction. Clause 5.2, the policy. ISO 14001, ISO 90001, ISO 45001. The top management shall establish, implement, and maintain the environmental policy, quality policy, occupational health and safety policy that provides a framework for setting the objective and includes a commitment to continual improvement. For ISO 14001, the top management shall establish, includes a commitment to the protection of the environmental, including prevention of pollution and other specific commitment. For ISO 45001, includes a commitment to eliminate hazard and reduce occupational health and safety risks. Clause 5.3 Organizational Roles, Responsibilities and Authorities. The similarity between ISO 90001 and ISO 45001, the top management shall assign the responsibility and authority for the firstly ensure that the environmental management or occupational health and safety system conforms to the requirements of this document. Second, reporting on the performance of the environmental management or occupational health and safety system to the top management. For ISO 14001, the top management shall assign the responsibility and authority for firstly ensure that the quantity management system conforms to the requirements of this international standard. Second, ensure that the process are delivering their intended output. Clause 6, which is planning. Subclause 6.1, action to address risks and opportunities. The similarity between three ISO, which is ISO 45001, ISO 14001, and as ISO 90001 state that the organization shall consider the issue referred to clause 4.1 and the requirements referred to clause 4.2 to determine the risks and the opportunities that need to be addressed to give assure that the occupational health and safety management system can achieve as in the outcome, prevent or reduce desired effect, and achieve the continual improvement. The differences in clause 6.1 action to address risks and opportunities. The difference in subclause 6.1.2, which is for ISO 45001, hazard identification and assessment risks and opportunities. The organization shall establish, implement, and maintain a process for hazard identification that is ongoing and proactive. This process shall take into account but not limited. But for ISO 14001, the organization shall determine the environmental aspect of its activities, product, and service that is can control and those it can influence their associated environmental impacts considering a life cycle perspective. And for ISO 90001, action to address these risks and opportunities, how to integrate and implement the actions into quality management system process as stated in clause 4.4.
For Clause 8 operation, under the subclause 8.1 operational planning and control, both of ISO 40001 and ISO 45001, the organization shall establish, implement, control, and maintain the processes needed to meet environmental and operational health and safety management system requirement, and to implement the action identified in 6.1 and 6.2 clause by establishing operating criteria for the processes and implementing control of the processes in accordance with the operating criteria. For ISO 90001, the organization shall plan, implement, and control the processes needed to meet the requirement for the provision of products and services, and to implement the actions determined in the clause C by determining the requirement for the products and services, establish criteria for the processes and the acceptance of products and services, and the last one is determining the resources needed to achieve conformity to the products and service requirement. In addition for ISO 45001, it has a clause of 8.1.2, which is eliminating hazards and reducing operational health and safety risks. So the organization shall establish, implement, and maintain a process for the elimination of hazards and reducing of operational health and safety risks using the following hierarchy of control. So the next one is 8.2. So the emergency preparedness and response. For ISO 40001, the organization shall establish, implement, and maintain the processes needed for and respond to potential emergency situations identified in 6.1.1. So number one is prepare to respond by planning actions to prevent or mitigate adverse environmental impacts from emergency situations and the consequence of situations. Number two is periodically test the plan response actions were practicable and thus provide information and training related to emergency preparedness and response. For ISO 45001, the organization shall establish, implement, and maintain the processes needed to prepare for and respond to potential emergency situations as identified in 6.1.2.1. So, establishing a planned response to emergency situations, including the provision of first aid, The next one is evaluating performance and revising the planned response after testing and after the occurrence of emergency situations. And the third one is communicating and provide information to all workers on their duties and responsibilities. For ISO 19001, there is no emergency preparedness and response. Thus, they changed with 8.2 clause about requirement for product and services. So the under subclause 8.2.1, the customer communication, they shall include the providing the information relating to products and service, handling inquiries, contracts, or order including change, and also obtaining customer feedback and complaints. For the subclass 8.2.2, determining the requirement for product and service, so the organization shall ensure that the requirement for the products and service are defined, including statutory and regulatory requirements, and those considered necessary by the organization. And the next one, the organization can meet the claims for the product and service it offers.
Hi again. So for clause 9, performance evaluation, I will be explaining to you all the three subclasses. The subclass 9.1, which is monitoring, measurement, analysis and evaluation. Subclass 9.2, internal audit, and subclass 9.3, which is management review. For subclass 9.1, which is monitoring, measurement, analysis and evaluation, I choose the topic under it, which is subclass 9.1.1, which is general. So for ISO 9001, ISO 14001 and ISO 45001, all of the standards tells that the organization should determine what and when they need to be monitored and the method they should choose. But for ISO 14001, there is a criteria that they have to use against the standard. And also in ISO 45001, there is also the criteria they have to use against the standard performances. And then for all three standards, the organization should evaluate performances and effectiveness, but based on their standards. For ISO 9001, the QMS. For ISO 14001, the EMS. And for ISO 45001 is the OSHMS. And lastly, all these three standards tells that the organization shall retain appropriate documented information as evidence. But for ISO 14001, the organization shall ensure that the document is verified and also communicate relevant environmental performances information internally and externally. But for ISO 45001, the organization shall ensure that the equipment is verified as applicable and is used and maintained. And lastly, the subclause 9.3 raises the management review, which is also have same content, which are the top management shall review the system at planned intervals to ensure the suitability, adequacy, and effectiveness. Organization should also take consideration on changes, performances, adequacy of resources, and relevant communication, and they also should decide on the opportunity, changes, and actions for improvement. And the differences is just the system, which is ISO 9001, Quality Management System, ISO 14001, Environmental Management System, and ISO 45001, Occupational Safety and Health Management System. And lastly, the subclause 9.3 raises the management review, which is also have same content, which are the top management shall review the system at planned intervals to ensure the suitability, adequacy, and effectiveness. Organization should also take consideration on changes, performances, adequacy of resources, and relevant communication, and they also should decide on the opportunity, changes, and actions for improvement. And the differences is just the system, which is ISO 9001, Quality Management System, ISO 14001, Environmental Management System, and ISO 45001, Occupational Safety and Health Management System.
For subclauses 10.1 general, for these three ISO standards, the organization shall determine opportunities for improvement and implement necessary action to their particular purpose. For ISO 14001, it's to achieve the intended outcomes of its EMS, while for ISO 90001, it's to meet customer requirement and enhance customer satisfactions. And for ISO 45001 is to achieve the intended outcomes of its occupational health and safety management system. For subclauses 10.2 non-conformity and corrective actions, for ISO 41001 and ISO 9001, when a non-conformities occur and receive complaints, the organization shall react to non-conformities. Second, evaluate the needs for action to eliminate the causes of the non-conformity in order that it does not recur or occur elsewhere. Implement any action needed. Review the effectiveness of an corrective action taken. Update risks and opportunity determined during planning if necessary. And make changes to the EMS QMS if necessary. For subclauses 10.2, incidents, nonconformity, and corrective actions, for ISO 45001, when an accident or a non-conformity occur, the organization shall react in a timely manner to the incident of non-conformity, evaluate with the participation of workers, see the and the involvement of other relevant interested parties, the need for corrective action to eliminate the root causes of the incidents of non-conformity in order that is does not recur or occur elsewhere. Review existing assessment of occupational health and safety risks and other risks as appropriate. Determine and implement any action needed, including corrective action in accordance with the hierarchy of control. Next, the organization shall to assess occupational health and safety risks that relate to new or changed hazard prior to taking actions. Next, review the effectiveness of any action taken, including corrective action, and make changes to the occupational health and safety management system if necessary. Next, corrective action shall be appropriate to, for ISO 14001, the significance of the effects of the non-conformity agriculture, including the environmental impacts. Second, is for ISO 9001, corrective action shall be appropriate to the effective of non-conformity agriculture. And for ISO 45001, the effect or potential effect of the incidents of non-competitive encounter. For these three ISO standard, the organization shall retain documented information as evidence of the nature of the incidents or non-conformities and any subsequent action taken, and the result of any action and corrective action, including their effectiveness. For ISO 45001, the organization shall communicate this documented information to relevant workers and where there exists workers' representative and other relevant interested parties. For subclauses 10.3, continual improvement, for both ISO 14001 and ISO 9001, the organization shall continually improve the suitability, adequacy, and effectiveness of the EMS or QMS management system. While for ISO 45001, the organization shall continually improve the suitability, adequacy, and effectiveness of the occupational health and safety management system by improve safety and health performance, encourage a safety-focused culture, involve worker in ongoing improvement, next, share improvement results with worker and representative, and keep records of improvement effort.